Hello guys, as part of today's video we are going to talk about SXA Page design and partial design. So partial design is a collection of different components which ultimately make up your page. So each partial design can have one or more than one renderings associated to that. So what we do is we create different partial designs, and each partial design has different components on it, and then all these different partial designs gets attached to a page design, because page design is the ultimate presentation definition item for us. And when we have all these page designs tagged with a specific page design, this page design gets tagged with a specific page type. So let's take an example of a home page template of any specific site. So that home page template has header, footer, and some specific components like image callout or things like that, or related articles like that. So what we do is we because because these components are going to be generic across different pages also. So what we can do here is we create a partial design for, let's say, for header and footer. So let's just get started. That will make more sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show all those things in terms of shared site. Anyways, we can do it directly to specific to one site, but I'm just doing it how we can do it on the shared site concept, so that once we create everything on shared site, so that the same can be reused in other sites as well. So in this case, my shared site is shared, and then the same site, presentation items and all data source can be reused by club zone and travel site or any other sites here. Because for my tenant, that is travel site, the shared site what I'm currently using is shared, so that you can verify it here. So under sharing, shared site is my shared. Yeah, so that was off the track, so let me just go here. So the first step in the page, in order to create a page, is we need to create partial design, right? So what I'll do here is I'll just create a basic uh, partial design first. So let me just call it as header, right? And let me also create another partial design called footer. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, so now we have our partial designs created. What I'm going to do is I'm going to configure basic components for my header and footer, just to make things clear. And but it's not like that. We can attach only out of the box SXA components to that, which is what I'm going to do now. But in your case, if you think there are certain components which are not available out of the box with SXA, you can create your own renderings, and those renderings you can you can add as part of all these two partial designs, or any partial design which you want to create. So let's start with header. So what I'm going to do is, let me just go to experience editor. So this is what I have done. Let me just go to header first. It's taking a while. Okay, so okay, so it was my header component here. So you can see because I'm using the default SXA layout here, so you can see we have header, then we have main, and then we have footer sections here. So in this specific case, as I have created this partial design for header, so what I can do is I have to add my component whichever I want to add for header in this specific section. So what I can do here is I'll just select the placeholder wherever I want to configure my components, and I can just open my toolbox and see the basic component which I can configure here. So if I just go to media, I have an image component here, so I can just drag drop my image component on the header section. Okay, so I just added image component to my header section, and what I can do from here is, I can just add a default image here. So if I go to I can just select site logo here. Okay, so this is what I really want from a header component. I just want to have one logo here. Basically, we can add other components also to our header. Header feature here, like let's say maybe navigation and few other things, but I'm not going to that detail. Yeah, so we should be good with just logo. And if I go back to my partial design, let's just go to footer, and same thing, same exercise we have to repeat for footer as well. So in footer also, we can have a combination of different kinds of components. So but as of now, what I really want to do is, I just want to add a basic text here. What I can do is, let me just go to page content, and let me add a rich text here, and let me add basic text here, or rights reserved. Okay, good. So now we are done with our header and footer. Similarly, if we want something for our main section as well, we can do that. But let's just see how these things really work on the page level first, and then if you want to add something on the body section, we will add that. So we have footer ready, we have header ready with a basic component on it. Okay, so yeah, now the next step what I'm going to do is, once we have our partial designs ready, the next step is we need to create a page design for that, where we can aggregate all these different partial design which we have created. So let's say if I take an example of let's say event landing page, right? So what I have to do is I have to just create a new page design and call it as event landing, right? So I have an event landing here. Okay, so in this event landing page design, you can see that whatever different partial designs we have created, all are listed here. So from the available partial designs, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select only header and footer for now. We can select all other components as well, and as in when you add more components to it, it will start showing here, and then you can configure it. So let's say if the requirement of event landing pages, that we need to have an header and footer, and then a call out in the body section, and then I can just select this call out here, and then just call it a day. Similarly, if we want to have a different page template, let's say you know uh, let's say article landing, so what I can do is I can have similarly header and footer here, and we don't have to create those header and footer again, because we already have those header and footer already created as part of this partial design. So what we will do is we will go to the article page design, configure header and footer, and then if there is something very specific to article, we create those components as in partial design and we configure it here. So that's how it goes. So in this specific case, when we're talking about creating an event landing page, so the step is create an event landing page design and configure what different partial designs you want here. So which is what we have done here, right? So just save it. Now, so we have our partial designs ready, we have our page designs ready. So the important part to note here is whatever partial designs we create here, all those partial design has to be configured on any of your page design, because unless and until it is all any of your partial design is not configured to a page design, it won't show up in your page, because this is the kind of final presentation definition item for you. So once we have partial designs created, configure those partial design to the corresponding page design, and then ultimately your specific page designs get tagged to your page type, whatever you want to target here, right? So in my case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to target my event landing to a event let's say event landing page type as well, which is currently not there, right? So what I can do is I can just go to my templates, and then let's go to project, and let me just create a duplicate of my page and call it as event landing. Okay. So now I have my event landing template also created. Now the next step is what I can do is I can just go to, so now you see my partial design and my page designs are created as part of my shared site. So I can it should be very easy for me to reuse the partial design and page designs created here in any of my child sites wherever I want to use it. So which is what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to club zone site and going to the presentation, going to I don't have to really go to partial design because I don't want any specific at this point of time. I don't want to create a specific partial design for my club zone site because I'm just going to reuse the header and footer partial design which I've created as part of my shared site. So I can just directly go to my page design, and if I just expand this page design, you can see I have just default and zone test, right? Because these two page designs are specific to my club zone site, right? So what we have to do next is select the page design, and then you see this design template design mapping. So because this home and page are already there, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to have a template definition here, so which is what I just created, my page type, that is event landing. And for this event landing page type, which is what I just created before coming to this page design, what is the corresponding page design for that. So if you see here, we have different kinds of page designs created here, but the important thing here to note is, if you see, I'm into my club zone site, and under club zone site, under page design, I have only default and zone test. But if I expand this one, I see my zone test and default, but there are other page designs also I can see. So from where all these page designs are coming, all these page designs are actually coming from my shared site, because that's in shared site only I have created all these different page designs. So the next step is configure your event landing page type to your event landing page design, which is created as part of your shared site, right? So just create this event landing and just save it. Next step. So the next step, so if we talk about steps, we have our partial design, we created page design and configure all our required partial designs there. Then we created a page type wherever we want to configure this page design. So in this case it was event landing, and then we configure the mapping also between page type and your page design. After that, we just need to create an instance of your specific page type. So in this case, we just need to create an item that is based on event landing page type. Go to project, and then sandbox, travel sites, and then event landing, and then just call it as events, for example. Click on insert, right? So if I save it, right, and then if I just need to open this in experience editor, right, I see this is what this is what is coming from my shared site, the header section, where we have configured um, header logo, and then we haven't done anything on the body section of it so far. And then this already reserve is also coming from from our shared site via footer partial design. So so once we have this page switch created, and then whatever components because we have this main placeholder, whatever components you want to configure to this main placeholder, you can definitely do that. Another important thing to note here is, let me just go back to page designs for a minute, right? So now what we have done here is we created a footer, header, and then we just configure a basic page here. So so basically, where exactly and how exactly this partial design and page designs are helpful, right? So because we just created this page design and partial design once, and then at this point of time we actually created an event landing page, and then there we configured our footer and header. Suppose you are talking about a different some different types of page template. Let's say you're talking about articles, news, generic page template, several other kinds of page template, contact related stuff. So there what we need to do is we again can reuse the same partial design which is already there. So that way we can, by having these page designs concept in place, we can have we can maintain uh, we can maintain the design consistency across different kinds of page template, right? We don't have to basically, because everything is kind of very clear here, that we have these spatial designs created, we have different definition items created for page designs, and then whatever, because at this point of time I'm using event landing for this footer and header, but let's say I create another article landing for this one, or news landing for that, and there also I need to use the same footer and header, so I can simply reuse this partial designs created. So that is the advantage we get with partial design and page design. And then another one more important thing to mention here is what we did after creating this page definition item for page design. We just went to our specific site, and on the presentation, if I go to the presentation page design, we just configured the mapping here, which means going forward, any instance of event landing page type, if I create, that will basically follow the presentation settings which is defined as part of event landing page, right? So which means we don't have to basically set the presentation for every item of that page type. So that is one thing. Secondly, let's take one more example where you have created this this mapping, but you also feel that to a specific page, and that's a very edge case I'm talking about. Let's say you create an article template. I'm talking about article detail template, and you have the similar kind of article temp type created, and then article page design created, and then you have done that mapping thing properly here. But there is a specific article detail page where you want to have a different kind of presentation. You don't want to follow that article page to follow the typical article presentation which you are actually using for other article pages also. So in that case, what you can do is you can break the you can basically break the design mapping what is actually followed here as part of your presentation page design definition. What you can do is you can go to that specific item, in this case let's say event, and what you can do is you can directly go to page design, and then you can select what page design you want to have it. So if you just select article, default, or home, or whatever it is, even though this page type is actually mapped with event landing, but if you specifically specify some other page template here, that will always take the priority. So that is also one thing which you can use in case when it is required. Otherwise it is not recommended. It's not like that it is not recommended from cycle perspective. It just from my perspective I'm saying it is always recommended to follow some basic design mapping, so that you don't have to basically set the presentation on every page. The same concept like of what we do on standard values. So but whenever it is required to break it, you can specify your specific page design here. And another thing to mention here is instead of doing, if you think that there are certain page designs and partial design which are which are going to be common across your different sites which you're going to work, so it always make more sense to create all those rendering data source and all those kind of stuff directly on the shared site, rather than you are creating it specifically on a on your child sites. So as I you can see I created this page design and partial design as part of my shared site, and that shared site is going to be reused in other sites also. So I should be able to use all the page design and partial designs created here. So if I go to for example travel site and go to presentation and go to page design here, for example, I haven't done anything here, but if you just see, I see this event landing anyway, that's coming from page type, but I also see this event landing here, right? So that's an advantage of creating your rendering and your sorry, your page designs, your renderings on the shared site. And one last thing before we wrap up here. So partial design, it's just one component, but each partial design can host number of rendering. So in our case, what we have done is we have just configured only one default out of the box component for our header and footer rendering. But again, depending on your requirement, depending on the component which you are building, if you see that there is a need to have you need to have more than one component for a specific partial design, definitely you can add those components directly onto the partial design, and it will be it can be used there. So there is no hard and fast that one partial design can only host one component. It can host more than one rendering to that. So that is what I just wanted to cover as part of today's video, and I hope it's kind of clear. uh, let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching. Thank you.